It is Wednesday, it's 8 o'clock, welcome to Tribe TV, so good to have you with us. The Tribe is our online learning community. People from around the world enjoy the Tribe Zone online, 400 modules of teaching and growing every single month. And then we enjoy our social media groups together that are private, where we're pumping out teaching and doing questions and answers and interactions with the people in the Tribe. It is a wonderful learning community. There's different tiers, different ways that you can join. Have a little look online. In fact, if you want to know more, I'll tell you more at the end of this program. Stick around and I'll let you know some information about the Tribe. Right, tonight, this isn't the online learning community. This is some free stuff that we're doing just to keep you inspired and built up in your faith. So tonight I want to share a really faith-building word that will help you grow in your relationship with God. Let's get to it. Let's head to the live teach and hear the word of God.
I've got a couple of books that I think of them as kind of benchmark books in my life, and I find myself coming back to them about every decade or so at least. I find myself rereading them and being as meaningful the second and third time through. And I'm actually going to preach from a book this morning. If I'm actually really preaching a lot of someone else's material, I like to tell you, just because I'm like that, I like to. And I think it's useful for you to know too, because you can go away and get deeper input and read the book yourself. And you might find it's a benchmark book for your life too. And this book was written in the mid-80s, and it's called Restoring Your Spiritual Passion by Gordon MacDonald. And he's written some fantastic books. And this is one of my favorites. And so I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to talk this morning, and I will add my own little bits and pieces, but a lot of it is from this book. And it is about passion. Passion is one of the secrets of the Christian life. Many of us, I think if you've been saved 3.5 minutes, you think passion will always be there. Maybe even if you've been saved 3 months, you think passion will always be there. But those of us saved a bit longer know that passion has to be created and renewed and replenished and born again inside of you. Anybody know that? That not everybody raising their hands is feeling it. And that's what I want to talk about this morning, why that happens, how it happens, and how we can find ourselves having passion once again. Because you can be breathing but not living. And that's not life in all of its fullness. And Jesus promised us life in all of its fullness. It's one of the great problems of our day today, is that we live at such an immense pace that we often live depleted lives and don't even know it. And so I want to talk about that. Some of the things that I'll read from the book might sound as if they relate only to leaders. Actually, they don't. He's talking to, a lot of the time, to church leaders in a church context, but it would as equally be relevant to the busy young mum and to the businessman and to anyone living in the fast-paced world in which we lived. So I'm just going to read some bits and then tell some tales and some stories and read some scriptures, and then we're going to pray together. Is that okay? And hopefully, I think you'll be inspired this morning. So let's listen to Gordon MacDonald in part of his opening introduction to his book. He says this: I sat at lunch with a friend who matched my age. We had shared similar life and faith styles. Our backgrounds had caused us to know the Bible well, to make fellowship with Christians an important element of life, and to make doing Christian things a priority. But as we talked, I could tell that my friend bordered on boredom as he told me about certain activities in his church. And I decided to penetrate the cloud cover of religious jargon. Where are you at these days with God? I asked, using the same casual tone of voice I would have used to ask about the Dow Jones averages. Where am I at with God? He repeated the question as he looked off at a 45-degree angle from me. There was at least a 30-second pause. I decided to wait it out. Do you really want to know? He finally asked. Yes, I'm your friend and I'm interested, I responded. I'm not anywhere, he said, and I haven't been anywhere for a long time. When it comes to my Christian life, I'm going through the motions. I made a mental note to ponder his meaning. His comment suggested that there was a sector in his world called the Christian life, and that there were other sectors that were some other sort of life. Gordon, he said, there was a time in my younger years when it all seemed to grab my attention and my imagination. Christ and faith, I mean. I really wanted to make my Christian commitment the absolute center of everything. But I've lost it. And so now I perform more out of habit than anything else. Well, what drives you to keep on with those habits? I probed. Well, I suppose only the fact that I'm getting to the point in my life where it's too late to change. My family life was all centered on Christian activities, and I don't want to hurt my wife or the kids. And besides, life has been good to me. Why upset the routines that have gotten me this far? So I just keep chugging along. Chugging along. I read about another man, a missionary, William Hotchkiss, a pioneer missionary, wrote this: I have dwelt 40 years practically alone in Africa. I have been 39 times stricken with the fever, 3 times attacked by lions, and several times by rhinoceri. I like that. But let me say to you, I would gladly go through the whole thing again if I could have the joy of again bringing that word Saviour and flashing it into the darkness that envelops another tribe in Central Africa. Wow. Worlds apart. Worlds apart and yet both Christian. Worlds apart and yet both love God, I'm sure. And yet how can we get to the point where what we're doing is routine and actually boring, but we don't know how to get out of it? What's happened? W.E. Sangster writes this in a book called Dr. Sangster. It said this: I'm a minister of God, and yet my private life is a failure in these ways. It's bold to write this stuff, isn't it? I am irritable and easily put out. I'm impatient with my wife and children. I know it's not me, is it, darling? It's just... I am deceitful in that I often express private annoyance when a caller is announced and simulate pleasure when I actually greet them. From an examination of my heart, I conclude that most of my study has been crudely ambitious, that I wanted degrees more than knowledge and praise rather than equipment for service. Even in my preaching, I fear that I'm more often wondering what the people think of me than what they think about my Lord and his word. I have long felt in a vague way that something was hindering the effectiveness of my ministry, and I must conclude that the something is my failure in living the true Christian life. I'm driven in pain to conclude that the girl who has lived as a maid in our house for more than 3 years has not felt drawn to the Christian life because of me. I find slight envies in my heart at the greater successes of other young ministers. I seem to match myself with them in thought, and I'm vaguely jealous when they attract more notice than I do. He concluded he was depleted and empty. And many of us today wouldn't even recognize those as a problem. I'm irritable. Well, it's life. Actually, there are signs in our lives that we're living depleted. And if we just took notice of our interior life, the soul, we would be able to live at a richer level. One failed politician finds himself in prison, and he said these words: I have discovered that my soul has been a stranger on my pilgrimage. In other words, I've not known how to read myself and know myself and know why I behave or think or act or feel in such a way. Why would a Christian raise their hands, and why would it be a smile in public but a grimace in private? Why would we allow ourselves to get to such a place where we're breathing but we're not living? We live with such an expectation in our exterior world that all should be well and all should be good. I heard on BBC Radio this week a Jewish historian, and he was asked, why did the Jewish people survive so well? How is Judaism still going after the Holocaust and endless persecution, endless scattering? Why is it still such a powerful religion? And he said, well, I believe it is because of the preoccupation in Judaism with the interior world. It is the world of your interior that is important to a Jew. They fill their lives with the Word of God. It is placed on their heads as they pray in the morning. It's written on the doorpost. It's meditated on. It's memorized as a child until your interior world is stronger than your exterior world. Thus, Judaism has survived the Holocaust because they realized my inside life, my soul must not be a stranger. I must know why I think and act as I do. I must be able to read the dials of my life and see the warning lights and know when there is a problem and act upon it. And I believe today, with all of the exterior stimulation that we fill our lives with, many of us are depleted and don't even know it. And so church, perhaps more than ever, can be a case of going through the motion, or even looking for the next adrenaline fix, the next one conference, the next city hall, the next encounter where there's the goosebump and the vision and we lose track of our souls. Who am I really? It's full, our world is full of comparison and insecurity and fear and the outward projection of I'm fine. We joke about it, but it's not a joke. The depletion of our inside world leads to emptiness, and it leads to form instead of godliness. It leads to hands raised but empty hearts. It leads to people that proclaim to know God but never really do. Our inner world, your interior life is so important. When you look at a road in icy conditions, you ever wondered why some roads break up and crack and bulge and fall apart, but others seem to cope with the extreme weather conditions? It's not to do with the surface, it's to do with the subsurface. There is something in the foundation that is allowing that which causes stress to drain away from the surface of their lives. And as believers, so often we deal with the smooth outer surface and all looks good in good weather. But when the storms come and we bulge and we crack and we give way and we fall apart, it's because there was something missing in the subsurface. It isn't exciting to preach about. It's not going to make you think, wow, there was a miracle in that service, or revival, and all these stimulating things that we want as much as we want to watch the new X Factor on TV. It stimulates us. It's fun. It makes our life feel like something's happening. But that's not what godliness and walking with God is about. It is about God really getting into the subsurface of our lives and affecting true change. So when the storms come, there's something there that holds its place and that allows the stresses and the pains, and they do come, don't they, that allows the pains of life to drain away. While many of us are collecting and holding, and eventually it breaks us up, we need to learn how to drain out the yucky stuff of life so that we feel free again. Because eventually it'll deplete us so much, we don't know where we are anymore. So it's a message this morning for the busy man, for the young mum, for those whose loss of passion has caused them to be, this is what it's like when you lose your passion, when you're depleted. When you're depleted, you become irritable. When you're depleted, you become insecure. When you're depleted, you become fearful. When you're depleted, you feel overwhelmed. When you're depleted, you feel trapped. And then I think the most profound word for Christians that are a good few years along the way, to use the old biblical phrase. When we're depleted, we feel numb. I remember being around a prophetic lady, Rita, in South Africa. She'd raised the dead. She prophesied to the governments. Incredible, powerful woman of God. And we were staying in a lodge about a mile from her main house. She had a game reserve, about 140,000 acres. And she had this massive game reserve. And so we were in this lodge about a mile away. And again, as a prophetic person, if you're a prophetic person, you're depleted very quickly as well. I remember her saying, after about 9 days we'd been there, she said, I can't wait for you to go. And I'm like, yeah, thank you. But she was just one of these real honest prophetic types. She says, because it's just the energy of other people. I can feel it. Prophetic people feel the energy. Sometimes I'll walk through a shopping mall and feel depleted at the end of it. But add to that I'm a little bit introverted. So, you know what I mean? I come away from it. My dad will be the same. I come away, especially when the credit card comes out, the shopping mall. Oh, Jesus. Everything's being depleted. You find yourself in a social setting Or in a work setting, it might be a teacher in a school. Now, you might be a teacher personality, but introverted. So you come away at the end of the day more exhausted than the extrovert teacher. Why? You're just wired that people drain you more. So what do you need to do? You need to sit down and replenish. People take energy from us. It's a withdrawal when we're with them, especially if you're in a leader giving someone something, circumstance. And in the book, Gordon MacDonald, he lists 5 people, and most of them are great. He says there's people that ignite our passion. They bring passion to us. They're preachers and mentors and models. And there's people that share our passion. Would you say ignite? Would you say share? There's co-workers that share our passion with us, and exciting to be together and work together. There's no loss of life from you when you leave their presence. There's others that catch our passion. Can you say catch? And you train them and input them, and it gives you energy to be good to them. You don't walk away depleted, you walk away energized when you've been with them. There's people that enjoy our passion. Can you say enjoy? There's people around you that will enjoy your passion, the passion that lives in you, that verve, that excitement, that unction, spiritual or physical, that lives in you, that they enjoy it. And that's perfectly wonderful. But then the last one, he says, then there's people that drain our passion. Can you say drain? Now, you know, in life, you can get to a point, if the balance of those that ignite you versus those that drain you is tipped to the point where suddenly I'm living where the greatest influences in my life are draining, suddenly you're going to find you get to a place where you're irritable, impatient, start to fake the smiles. The phone just rings and you go, oh. Hi. No, great to hear from you. Lovely. Yeah. And you're there going to your spouse, you know. Who does it? Come on, who does it? What? We don't want to live like that. I want to love people. But sometimes our hearts are so depleted, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel and going, no, my conclusion is, I don't love you. That's where we get to. They drain our passion. Why? Well, he gives 5 things. He says they compete with us. And that's draining. I have friends as a church minister that I can tell no good news to. I've concluded I will not give you any of our good news. How are you doing? They ask me, and I always go, oh, well, it's okay. Yeah, you know, it's church, blah, 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 blah. But I can't say, 10 people got saved last month, because they'll go, well, 12 got saved at our place. All right, okay. We've got a new campus. We've got 2 new campuses starting. Do you know what I mean? And what happens when you've got that relationship? Envy destroys relationships. And it just becomes wearing to be around envy and competition. People who are critical of us. The first one is compete. Say compete. Second one is critical. Say critical. People who are always leaning to the negative. I've got to be honest, there's some people you think, I have to time when I have a coffee with this person. Because I already know, because I'm not a stranger to my soul, I'm going to walk away depleted. Yeah. I know I'm going to have to put in 3 hours extra prayer and Bible reading just to recover from a coffee with that person. Come on, you know it. Because if I don't, I'm going to punch the next person and they won't even know why. Their criticalness, their negativity drains us. There's insecure people. Insecurity is exhausting because you can't say anything right. All you can do is stroke the ego. You can't go anywhere near truth at all whatsoever. Insecurity drains relationships of its energy. There's vain people where it's all about them. And they need to impress us continuously. And it's vanity. I've got to keep up the face. It's draining because as you talk with them, I'm getting no truth. And it drains you. And then there's the adversarial people. They fight us. You're in a meeting and you're talking about black and they always want to talk about white. And you're talking about up, they want to talk about down. You want to talk about big, they want to talk about small. It's like they feel their role in life is to play devil's advocate with you. Now, while you don't want leaders who are all yes people, you also don't need people that are just blocking everything and saying, well, what about over here? Come on. You want people that bring energy and life and movement and forward momentum. Because Because the adversarial, negative, unbelieving spirit is what kept them out of the promised land. It's like the spiritual energy of Israel disappeared in one moment because 2 said we can do it. But 10, look at the balance, 10 said, don't think we can. It'll never work. Look at us, we're grasshoppers. People deplete you. But Proverbs says, he who walks with the wise grows wise. Friend of fools suffers harm. Watch how many people, there are some people who are not rooted in church. What do I mean by this? They come to meetings, but they have no friends who are true, powerful, full-on, born-again believers. And they wonder why they live constantly depleted. It's because while they are connected in social activity to people who don't know God and are negative and critical, or they might be perfectly jolly. But if there is not the element of the people of God living together, connecting together, thriving together, caring for each other, covering for each other, spurring on our prayer lives, spurring on our evangelism and outreach, causing us to go, come on, there's dreams that we can fulfill together. If you haven't got true, and let me tell you, Sunday morning is not connection. It's attendance to something the size of a concert. It is not a true relational connection. There must be relational connection beyond the Sunday morning crowd, I'm going to call it. We're a crowd. There's a whole mix of people that will give their lives for what God has for us, and then others that are just popping along to see if we serve donuts. It's just all kinds of people in the room, and we love every one of you. But here's the truth. We're going to walk with and find energy from those who says, right, I'm going to put my roots down into this place. I'm going to get connected in, and I'm going to draw from the sustenance and give off life all at the same time in this place. That's what it means to have a true connectedness. So I want to say to you, are you walking with the wise? And that doesn't mean attending church. That means connecting with other believers, walking together, obeying the word of God. Are you in a place where you can take criticism from another believer? If not, you're not connected yet. If all you can cope with is the stroking of the ego and God loves you and he forgives you. No, true relationship starts when we get to the level of, mate, come on, where have you been for 3 weeks? Well, I'm not having them start to put the thumb screws on me. Never connected in the first place. As one person put it recently, the bags are already packed in the lobby. I think it was me, actually. But let's get on to what Jesus actually said, because he talked about keeping company, but he said this, and this is the other side of it. Keep company with me. Keep company with me. I've been reading from Genesis onwards. So I've been reading kind of, Adam, Eve, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. I'm up to Jacob at the moment, just in the last, week or so. And I love the pace of life. Oh. Abraham, go over there. All right. To the countryside. All Abraham seemed to do, this was his life's journey. Move from there to there. You'll have a son. Listen to this. And in about 400 years, destiny will kick in. That's what God said to him. Move from there to there. Have a son. That's where the miracle was. He always picks the one thing you can't do. It's kind of, are you kidding me? Why, just move from there to there. Have a son. And in about 400 years' time, it'll really mean something. Well, where's the ambition and the delight in that? 400 years. Can you imagine if God comes to you, God appears to you and says, my child, you are blessed. Oh, yes, I'm blessed. Jesus' name. And he appears in this fire and there's angels and there's the audible voice of God and every goosebump on your body. You've even got goosebumps on your goosebumps and you know, I'm with God. Right. I want you to move to Grimsby. Okay? The goosebumps are slowly receding at this point. I want you to have some children. Okay. And then in about 400 years, that'll make sense. But that's not very exciting. Here's the thing. Ambition exhausts us. when we're driving for dreams that are not God's, they really are born of the X Factor world in which we live, the financial desires of this world in which we live. When things are stirring inside of us that don't even have the smell of heaven, it exhausts us, because it seems the longer life goes on, the higher we rev our engines to try and get there. And when your internal stress engines are revving high to try and be a success in this life, we become exhausted and depleted and exhausting to everyone else in the room. But I'm looking at the lives of these guys like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. They just seem to want to be a friend of God and just do what God said. And the delight is, see, Abraham rescued Lot from because he was taken captive, and then he was offered all of these goods, and Abraham said, I don't want any of them, so that no one can say that you've made me rich. And then God appears to Abraham and he says, Abraham, I am your reward. Don't worry. What's your reward? Really, can we get to that healthy point where we go, God's our reward? My aims and my dreams, yes, there's all the stuff that he says to do, so we'll do them. But here's my personal, internal aims. I want to be a friend of God and a friend of sinners. And that's pretty much about it. And like Abraham, to go from place to place, he pitched his tent and he built an altar and he met with God. Do you want God to appear to you? Anybody in this room? Give me a wave if you want God to appear to you. Well, it seems from Abraham's life, all you got to do is keep building altars and he'll pitch up. Keep building altars and he'll turn up. What do I mean by this? Well, we've got to get to the place where we give God Sabbath moments in our world. That we get away from the rush and the ambition and the pride and the pace. I love the poise and the pace of Jesus' life.
Well, I hope tonight God has encouraged you or touched your life in some way. Please leave a comment or email us. We'd love to hear from you if you've been encouraged by these broadcasts. There is a free album waiting for you to download if you sign up to our e-news. And now, if you stick around, I'm going to tell you about the Tribe, our online learning community. And if you want to come and get involved in that and get connected and stay connected to us in the future, then join our Tribe. Hi, I'm Jarrod Cooper. I want to tell you about the Tribe. The Tribe is our global online learning community made up of believers, leaders, pastors, influencers, artists, all devoted to growing in God together. We're passionate about the things of the Spirit, growing in prophecy, miracles, signs, wonders. We're passionate about revival and the reformation of society, God doing something that will transform the world around about us. And we're passionate about great leadership, doing things with skill and integrity that, again, will impact the world around about us. There's 3 tiers to the Tribe. The basic level is Learn, and that's access to our growing library, over 400 units of video, audio, and e-courses to grow you in your faith and walk with God. There's a private Facebook group, an Instagram group where you can interact with others and with us in a more live way. Tier 2 is called Lead, and it's our global leadership tribe where we add a lot more leadership content. As soon as you join, you get 4 of my books on leadership and how to grow in the area of leadership. And every book that we write during your membership, you will get for free sent to you as an ebook. And then that tier has its own private Facebook group and Instagram group where you can connect with others that are growing in the same journey. Tier 3 is an extension of Tier 2 really. It's called Lead Plus, and it's where you can take your whole team, up to 10 people, and have them join under one membership so you're all learning and growing together. I want to invite you to join us on this journey. Join us in the Facebook group, the Instagram group, where we can interact together and then enjoy the massive amount of teaching on the Tribe Zone that could absolutely transform your ministry. Isn't it wonderful that we can connect around the world like this now with the power of the internet? Let's use it for good, and let's walk together and grow together in the things of God.